Imagine this. You're far from home, working on a dream restoration project, when you get a call that shatters everything. Your own parents have sold your house without your knowledge. Yes, your home, the one you poured years into, all to bail out your brother. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about family drama. Legal battles, fraud, and betrayal are all wrapped up in it. Before we dive into this wild story, quick heads up, the channel is moving, so make sure you're subscribed to keep up with the stories. I was 30 feet up on scaffolding, carefully sanding a century-old crown molding, the smell of sawdust filling my nose. When my phone buzzed, it was Mrs. Jones, my neighbor from Ohio. My stomach sank. She rarely calls fire, flood, or something serious, but this time, her voice was trembling. Alice, there are 2 large trucks in your driveway. The sold sign went up 3 days ago, she whispered. My heart froze. Sold my house, the place I'd spent years restoring with my own hands. It couldn't be. I gripped the molding, trying not to fall, fumbling to answer. Mrs. Jones, is everything all right? My voice sounded tight, foreign even to me. She told me what she saw: movers carrying out my furniture, my father directing them, the oak dining table I'd painstakingly restored last Christmas being hauled away. The words hit like a punch to the gut. My hands shook as I scrolled through the blurry photo she sent a glimpse through her window screen. Enough to confirm the nightmare. There it was. My sanctuary, my legal property, being stripped away, and I was powerless, hundreds of miles away in Georgia. I slumped against the scaffolding, trying to breathe. The summer heat suddenly oppressive. My house, the craftsman bungalow I had bought as a foreclosure, full of holes and mold that I had transformed with love and painstaking effort, was gone. Everything I'd built, every tile, every hand-sanded floorboard, every sourced fixture, was now being claimed by the people who were supposed to protect me. My parents. The betrayal was sharp, a cold twist in my stomach, worse than any diagnosis, worse than losing anything else I'd ever owned. It was my life they were erasing. I descended with mechanical precision, my body on autopilot while my mind raced. By the time I reached my rental car, my hands were shaking so badly, I dropped the keys twice. Sitting in the sweltering car, I dialed my mother. The line went to cheerful voicemail. My father, voicemail. My brother, busy. Each beep and click felt like a taunt. Panic was rising, but I forced myself to think, to assess. I opened my banking app, my mortgage information, my loan status, payoff pending. I hadn't signed anything. Someone had triggered a closing. Someone had forged my signature. The words hovered on the screen, staring back at me with an indifferent cruelty. I tried my mother again, this time on the landline she rarely used. Her voice came through breathless, distracted. Alice, honey, I can't talk right now. We're having a bit of a family crisis. Very busy. A crisis? A crisis involving my house being emptied while I'm on another state? The realization hit me in waves. Mom, Mrs. Jones says there's a sold sign on my lawn. Dad is loading my furniture. What have you done? I asked. The words slow, heavy. She admitted, with that calm, dismissive tone I knew too well, that it was to help Jeremiah, my younger brother. He was in trouble, they claimed, and they needed liquidity immediately. My house, my life, was a piggy bank to solve his mess. The conversation spiraled. They cited a power of attorney I had signed 3 years ago while abroad, claiming they were entitled to make executive decisions. The reality was suffocating. They thought I wouldn't fight, that I'd accept the theft quietly. But I remembered the revocation I had filed 2 years ago, certified and sent, legally nullifying that power. They either forgot or assumed I'd be too timid to enforce it. Trembling, I realized something. I wasn't just a restorer. I was a researcher. I knew how to follow paper trails, how to expose fraud. I sat in my car, the heat pressing down, staring at the photo Mrs. Jones had sent. My father, Cameron looked proud, directing strangers to haul my belongings. The oak dining table, my handcrafted sofa, the books I had collected, all disappearing. My heart felt hollowed out, replaced by a cold, calculating rage. They hadn't just sold my house, they had assessed my worth as a human being, decided I was expendable, and treated me as nothing more than an asset to resolve a debt. The physical sensation of betrayal, the ice in my veins, the lump in my throat was unforgettable. I realized that whatever steps I took next had to be precise, legal, and lethal in effect. My sanctuary was being violated, and I had to regain control. But first, I needed clarity. I pulled out my glove compartment, rifled through receipts, registration papers, and at the bottom, there it was, the blue folder with the revocation of power of attorney, the proof that they had no legal claim. My hands finally steadied, adrenaline mixing with fury. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a fight to reclaim what was mine and expose the deception that had been meticulously planned while I was unaware, far away, doing what I loved. The betrayal was raw, but in that moment, clarity and determination replaced panic. I would not be erased. I would fight back, and I would win. To really understand why my parents thought selling my house to save my brother was acceptable, you have to know the family dynamics. Jeremiah, my younger brother by 6 years, was the golden child, handsome, charming, and completely incapable of taking responsibility for a single thing in his life. Every failure, every misstep was never his fault. As a kid, if a vase broke, it was my distraction. If he failed a test, the teacher was unfair. As he got older, the stakes just got higher and more expensive. Meanwhile, my parents, Brenda and Cameron, were enablers to the extreme. Brenda was obsessed with appearances. She led the church social committee, wore pearls to the grocery store, and had this soft melodic voice that hid a steel trap of manipulation. She cared deeply about how things looked to the world, less about the underlying reality. Cameron, retired insurance adjuster, was loud, blustering, and deeply chauvinistic. He saw my independence as an insult, something that needed to be corrected or managed. If I spent my weekends restoring homes, he joked that I needed a husband to stop playing with hammers. In short, they rewarded Jeremiah's failures and punished my independence. I had worked for everything I had. Since 16, I supported myself, paid for my college, built my career as a historic home restoration specialist, and poured every spare penny into my bungalow on Elm Street. That house wasn't just a building, it was a testament to my effort, my care, and my attention to detail. The floors, the windows, the crown molding, I restored them all with my hands. Every piece told a story of hard work and patience, but to my parents, it was just a cash cow, a convenient asset they could liquidate when Jeremiah's antics caught up with him. Jeremiah, on the other hand, had a string of disastrous ventures. First, a crypto phase that cost my parents $20,000. Then, a luxury sneaker resale business that ended in a lawsuit, a brief DJ career that left him with noise complaints and a wrecked van. And through it all, Brenda and Cameron swooped in to cover for him, never letting him face wrongs with unreal consequences. Each time I watched their pattern repeat, my brother errors, my parents rescue him, and I observe helpless, far away. The real toxicity wasn't just in spoiling Jeremiah, it was in the calculated use of me. They knew I was independent, that I could handle myself, and that I didn't seek approval. And yet, they saw me as an expendable resource. Loans they asked for became demands. Guilt trips became ultimatums. "You have so much," Alice, Brenda would say, her eyes scanning my savings. "Jeremiah just needs a leg up." It was subtle, but insidious. The escalation over the years became more audacious. And by the time they sold my house, the act wasn't just careless, it was deliberate. Cameron and Brenda had created a system where they never needed to argue or negotiate with me. They assumed compliance, a quiet acquiescence to their decisions. If I questioned their motives, I was dramatic or selfish. They framed their actions as necessary, benevolent, protective, but the reality was that they measured me by my utility, my work, my ability to solve problems that were not mine to solve. Every act of facilitation for Jeremiah came at my expense. I remember sitting in the car, digesting the revelation that they had sold my home, the bungalow I had bought in foreclosure, full of holes, mold, raccoons in the attic, had been my canvas for 4 years. Weekends, evenings, every extra dollar went into it. Every piece of hardware, every window, every floorboard had my fingerprints all over it. My sanctuary, painstakingly built, was being stripped away while I was away, and they thought it was a reasonable trade to save my brother from the consequences of his recklessness. The contrast between my life and Jeremiah's couldn't have been starker. I planned, I budgeted, I invested sweat and time. He gambled, made impulsive choices, and expected rescue. My parents had internalized a pattern of enabling that rewarded charm and punished diligence. They were obsessed with appearances, ensuring that to the outside world, the family was flawless, prosperous, and caring. The reality, the reckless debts, the crises, the moral compromises was hidden behind polished smiles and church events. Their moral compass wasn't about right or wrong. It was about what maintained the image and kept the golden child untarnished. I'd long learned to navigate their manipulation. I knew their patterns, their triggers, and their obsession with control. I understood that any misstep on my part, any deviation from compliance, would be framed as self-interest, dramatics, or immaturity. But even with this knowledge, the sale of my house was a new level of audacity. They weren't just enabling, they were actively violating me, using my home as currency without even a nod to legality or consent. As I pieced it together, I realized the extent of the system they had built Jeremiah, the dependent, thriving on loopholes and rescuing Brenda, the image-conscious manipulator, orchestrating appearances and rationalizing the theft, Cameron, the loud patriarch, asserting authority and justifying it with a patriarchal sense of problem-solving, and me, the independent one, punished indirectly for being reliable, productive, and self-sufficient. Each of my parents' actions had layers of premeditation. They calculated that I wouldn't fight, that I would either be too far away or too constrained by decorum to challenge them. And yet, in that calculated betrayal, they underestimated me. They didn't know that my independence wasn't fragile. My patience wasn't passivity. They assumed my quiet diligence equaled weakness. They assumed the girl who could restore a crumbling bungalow by herself would not pursue justice, would not dig through legal and financial records, and would not act swiftly when the moment demanded. But I was not just a restorer, I was a researcher. I could follow paper trails, uncover fraud, and when necessary, turn that knowledge into leverage. I knew my parents' system, their psychology, and their blind spots. They had built this pattern of toxicity and control, but in doing so, they had also laid the groundwork for their undoing, sitting there, trying to breathe through the fury and disbelief. I understood the depth of the betrayal. It wasn't a spontaneous act, it was the culmination of decades of family dynamics, the golden child, the enablers, the manipulator, the patriarch, and the independent daughter punished for her very competence. Each choice, each enabling act, each small loan or indulgence that had kept Jeremiah afloat had led to this moment. And now, far from home, I was facing the direct consequences: a house gone, a family willing to break legal boundaries, and a brother whose recklessness had been cushioned at my expense. After the shock began to settle, I knew panic wouldn't help. I was sitting in that stifling rental car, the photo from Mrs. Jones open on my phone, The reality sinking in my house was being sold, my property stripped away, all while I was hundreds of miles away. My hands shook, but my mind was sharp. I started piecing everything together, step by step, like following a blueprint, which is ironically the same approach I took when restoring old homes. First, I confirmed the legal angle. I had signed a power of attorney years ago while traveling in Europe, a limited document meant to let my parents handle minor things like accepting deliveries or signing for packages. I had carefully revoked that power 2 years ago, sent certified copies to both Brenda and Cameron, and received their signed acknowledgement. The memory of that revocation filled me with a cold clarity. They had ignored it, assuming I wouldn't use it against them. That assumption was about to cost them. I dug into the banking app on my phone, checking the mortgage and loan status, payoff pending. Someone had triggered a closing, but I hadn't signed anything. My heart raced, but I forced myself to breathe slow and steady, the way I did when carefully removing decades of varnish from fragile woodwork. The words on the screen were stark. The sale was in motion. But it wasn't too late. The evidence was there. The digital breadcrumbs left by the banking system and title company would prove the fraud if I acted quickly. Next, I called Marcus Thorne, my trusted real estate attorney back in Ohio. His number was memorized. I didn't need to search. He picked up on the second ring, and I kept my voice calm, measured, even though inside I felt a storm of adrenaline and fury. Marcus, I need your help immediately. My parents are attempting to close the sale on my primary residence using a power of attorney I revoked 2 years ago. Movers are on site, and they're claiming the closing is imminent. The line went silent for a moment, then his tone shifted. Revoked. You have the filing. His usual casual grin was replaced by that focused, rapid-fire legal mode I knew meant he was taking this seriously. I confirmed. Stamped copy from the county clerk. In my glove compartment. Marcus didn't waste time. Okay. First, we need a lis pendens filed. That immediately clouds the title. No title company in America will proceed with the transfer if there's pending litigation. We can freeze this property in its tracks. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Do it. And Marcus, I want a full forensic accounting of the transaction. Who is the buyer? What bank account is the money going to? The title company, everything? He confirmed, consider it done. I'll draft the complaint for fraud and forgery while I'm at it. But Alice, if the money has already changed hands, it gets messy. I checked the time. The notary, Mom had said, was already on site. Do it anyway. Freeze everything. Stop the sale. I felt a grim satisfaction as Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard on the other end, initiating legal maneuvers that could halt the theft. I wasn't panicking, I was calculating. Every action had precision, every step methodical, fueled by years of research skills and attention to detail. While Marcus worked on the legal freeze, I mapped out the timeline, I opened my email, reviewed the power of attorney, checked the county clerk's filing for the revocation, confirmed all certified mail receipts. Every piece fit like tiles in a mosaic. The revocation was unassailable, stamped and filed, making the attempted sale not just immoral, but outright illegal. This was no impulsive parental overreach. This was calculated fraud. I thought about how they had coordinated it, the timing of the sale, the movers, even the call from Mrs. Jones as a tip-off. They had assumed I wouldn't be able to react fast enough, that my distance and reliance on them for communication would render me powerless. That underestimation was key. They had no idea I was prepared for moments like this, that my patience and focus weren't weaknesses, but weapons. I ran through contingencies while Marcus handled the immediate filings. If the sale was halted, what next? I needed evidence of intent, emails, messages, anything showing they had knowingly used a revoked POA. I pulled up my banking records, cross-referenced mortgage payments, and screenshots of my ownership documents. The digital trail was there. My parents had left it. It wasn't just about saving the house, it was about exposing the premeditated betrayal. The intensity of the situation didn't make me reckless. I didn't yell. I didn't panic. I thought like I was assessing rot in a load-bearing beam. Find the weak points, expose them, and brace the structure. Here, the weak points were in the timing, the paper trail, and the power of attorney. Each click on my phone, each document I accessed, each word to Marcus was strategic. The house wasn't just a building, it was my leverage, my sanctuary, my stake in the fight. I wouldn't lose it. Marcus and I moved swiftly. The list pendants went up electronically within the hour, immediately placing a legal cloud on the title. No transfer could occur until the matter was resolved. That one action was like putting a steel brace on the structure, preventing further damage. Then, he began drafting a complaint for fraud and forgery. Every second counted. I could feel the tension as I sat in the rental car. Engines humming, sweat drying, my mind racing faster than the traffic I'd soon navigate back to Ohio. I didn't waste time on emotion. There was just focus. I reviewed the names, the potential buyers, traced transactions, and confirmed that the funds weren't yet finalized. That meant Marcus's filings were perfectly timed. The sale could be halted cleanly. I spoke again with him, confirming all evidence was logged, every step documented. We were building an airtight case, both preventive and offensive, ensuring that when I confronted my parents, I had the law squarely on my side. As the heat of the day pressed down, I felt a strange mix of anger and control. They had thought me fragile, compliant, easily manipulated, but I had anticipated this type of scenario. My calm was a mask for adrenaline, my focus a weapon. I wasn't reacting blindly. I was orchestrating a counterstrike, aligning documents, calls, and filings like layers in a restoration. Each piece was critical, and the house, my life's work, was at the center of it. Finally, with Marcus confirming all filings, the title frozen, and evidence organized, I leaned back in the car seat. The immediate threat was halted. My home was safe for the moment, but the fight wasn't over. I would have to face my parents, expose their fraud, and navigate the chaos of the family dynamics that had led to this betrayal. Still, for the first time since the phone call from Mrs. Jones, I felt a spark of control, a sense that I could reclaim what was mine without losing myself in panic. The groundwork had been laid, and the legal machinery was in motion. What followed would be the confrontation, the strategy, and ultimately, the reclaiming of my home and my life. The drive from Savannah to Ohio was a blur of asphalt and heat. 10 hours, 9 if I pushed it, no music, no podcast, just my thoughts, Marcus's advice, and a mental checklist. I needed to be precise, calm, calculated. Every mile brought me closer to my house, closer to the people who had betrayed me, and closer to the confrontation I'd been preparing for in my mind for hours. By the time I pulled onto Elm Street, the sun was dipping, casting long shadows across the suburban lawns, painting everything in bruised shades of orange and purple. My house was there. Sold signs were gone. The moving truck was gone, but something felt off. The porch was empty, the windows bare, the sense of violation still thick in the air. I parked on the street to block their beige sedan in Nuss. I didn't want them leaving without a face-to-face. Stepping onto the flagstones I had hand-selected 3 years ago. I felt a rush of memories, sand between my fingers, the smell of sawdust, the nights I had stayed up finishing floors by hand. I pushed the front door open, and the smell hit me immediately. Not the lavender or wood wax I used, but the scent of cheap takeout and my father's cologne. Overpowering and familiar. The living room was half empty, my restored 1920s sofa gone, bookshelves stripped, architectural books packed and stacked haphazardly by the door. And there they were, my parents and brother, sitting around the breakfast island, eating pizza straight from the box, a bottle of my vintage wedding champagne open on the counter. They looked up as I entered, startled, but not scared, annoyed. This was their first mistake. "Sit down," I said, low and flat. My voice didn't waver, though my body hummed with adrenaline. Cameron's face turned red. "Now see here, Alice," he started, his tone blustering. "We are your parents. We stepped in to handle a crisis while you were off playing in the dirt in Georgia." I ignored him, walking closer to the island, my eyes locked on him. "You sold my house," I said. "Every piece of it." I didn't even glance at Jeremiah. I didn't need to. "You forged my signature, thus you used a power of attorney I revoked 2 years ago." Brenda froze, mid-bite of pizza, her face a mixture of panic and disbelief. "We did what had to be done," she snapped, her voice cracked ever so slightly. "Jeremiah is in serious trouble. We couldn't wait for you to come back and hem and haw about your space. We leveraged an asset we thought was expendable." "Expendable," I echoed, tasting the word like ash. My hands curled into fists, but my tone remained controlled. "You didn't ask. You didn't consider the legality, the ethics, or the fact that this was my home, my life's work, every floorboard, every window, every fixture gone. And all for what? To save my brother from consequences he earned." Cameron puffed his chest out, trying to reassert dominance. He was in trouble. "Alice, serious trouble. We are his parents. We acted in the family's best interest. The sale closed this afternoon. The money's in escrow and scheduled to wire to us tomorrow morning. End of story." I tilted my head, feeling the shift in the air as my focus tightened. "End of story," I said. "Do you know what happens when you sell property with a revoked power of attorney fraud, forgery, felony fraud?" And I already called my lawyer. At that, a flicker of uncertainty passed over Cameron's face. Brenda's hand flew to her mouth. Jeremiah, pale, dark circles under his eyes, froze mid-pizza bite. The room, previously tense with arrogance, became electric with fear. "The power of attorney I revoked," I said, leaning on the counter. "2 years ago, certified mail, county clerk stamp, your signatures acknowledging receipt, completely void. And as of 4:30 p.m. today, my lawyer filed a lis pendens, title frozen. The sale cannot go through. Any wire transfer scheduled for tomorrow doesn't happen." Silence, then a strangled whimper from Jeremiah. He dropped his slice of pizza, eyes wide. Brenda's face drained of color. Cameron tried to speak, but his usual bluster faltered. He knew, in that moment, the power dynamic had shifted. They weren't in control anymore. I was. "You think you can intimidate me?" I said, my voice calm but sharp. "That I'll just accept this? You thought wrong. You underestimated me." Brenda stammered. "Alice, we did what we thought was right. We were trying to protect him." I stepped closer to her, voice softening but still firm. "Protect him from what? The consequences of his own actions. You used my home, my life, my trust as collateral for his mistakes. And that, Brenda, is theft." Cameron tried to regain his footing. "We leveraged an asset. We made a family decision, and you forgot the law." I said, "You forgot the fact that I revoked the power of attorney, and you forgot who I am. I don't just restore homes. I follow paper trails. I know fraud when I see it, and I know how to stop it." The kitchen, once filled with casual, suburban confidence, now felt like a courtroom. Every glance, every micro-expression betrayed fear. I had transformed from the quiet, compliant daughter to the orchestrator of control. This wasn't a showdown of muscles or volume. It was a demonstration of knowledge, preparation, and authority. Jeremiah finally muttered, voice trembling, "Alice, please, I can fix this. I'll pay it back. Just let it go. You've never paid back a dime in your life. I said, calm but icy. And you thought my house could bail you out again. Not happening. Brenda tried to interject, grabbing my arm. I recoiled. Life or death. Mom. Not furniture. Not money. But the house, that's mine. And I'm not compromising it. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Cameron, used to dominating conversations with his presence, tried to step forward, looming over me, call the lawyer, lift the list pendants, or I won't. I cut in. The house stays mine. You'll figure out your own mess without using my assets. Brenda's protest was sharp, shrill, but Alice, this is life or death. We can't leave him. I said, pointing at her. You three have spent a lifetime making him the center, treating me as expendable. Not anymore. He's your problem, not mine. I'm done being collateral. The room was taut with tension, but I wasn't finished. Now, who's the buyer I demanded? Turning to Cameron, his usual arrogance faltered. An LLC, QMR Holdings. I pulled out my phone, calling Marcus again, putting him on speaker. Look up QMR Holdings in the state registry. I said, my voice was steady, even measured, but the weight of authority hung in every word. A few moments later, Marcus confirmed, Vincent Morty, Vinny, the predatory lender, the loan shark, the person my parents were handing my $450,000 asset to, all to solve an $80,000 gambling debt. Jeremiah's face paled further. Brenda gasped. Cameron went silent, defeated. I held the phone like a weapon. You sold the house to a criminal. I said, not for debt settlement, not for family protection, but to hand over $350,000 of my equity to a predator. You were so panicked you didn't do the math. You didn't think, you didn't even check. And now, the power has shifted. You thought you were in control. You weren't. I am. The confrontation went beyond words. It was psychological. I had dismantled their narrative, their bluster, their excuses, their manipulation, all crumbled in the face of facts, legality, and evidence. Every micro-movement, the whimper from Jeremiah, the frozen gaze of Brenda, Cameron's slump told me the balance had tipped. They had assumed fear or compliance, but what they got instead was precision, calculation, and relentless assertiveness. I let them absorb it, each second stretching. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I didn't storm. I walked slowly, deliberately, across the kitchen, observing every detail, every reaction. This was my domain now. The house, the evidence, the law, they were all mine. And I had reminded them, in the most inescapable way possible, that power comes not from position, not from authority, not even from parenthood. Power comes from knowledge, preparation, and the willingness to act when the moment demands. Finally, I let my gaze sweep the room, locking onto each of them in turn. This ends now, I said, voice low, unwavering. My house, my assets, my life, they are off limits. You will not touch them again. And if you even think about bypassing this again, the consequences will be severe. Do you understand? The answer was silence. And in that silence, I knew the confrontation had been won. The power dynamic had shifted irreversibly. I had walked into the lion's den, unarmed in any traditional sense, but fully equipped with the tools of legality, logic, and unshakable resolve. The room, filled with fear, guilt, and awe, reflected the new reality. I was no longer the compliant daughter. I was the authority. I was the one in control. Once the immediate confrontation with my parents was under control, I shifted focus to the real threat, Jeremiah's debt, and the predatory buyer, Vincent Morty Vinny. The pieces fell into place quickly. My brother's reckless gambling had led to a massive $80,000 shortfall, and my parents, in their panic, had sold my house to a cash buyer to cover it. I pulled up the documentation Marcus had gathered, cross-referencing title filings and escrow records. The sale had been executed using my revoked power of attorney, but the funds hadn't yet changed hands. This meant I had the leverage I needed. Jeremiah was in the corner, a bundle of nerves, clutching the phone. His eyes darted to mine, silent pleadings in his gaze. I ignored the impulse to comfort him. This wasn't about emotion, it was about control, about strategy. I had to handle Vinny before anyone acted rashly. I picked up the phone, dialing the number Marcus had confirmed as Vinny's contact. My voice, calm but firm, carried a weight I could feel in my own chest. "Where is my money?" "Jerry," I demanded as the line connected. The grating, gravelly voice of Vincent came through, hesitant at first. "I don't know who you are, lady." I smirked, slightly predictable. Guys like Vinny always underestimated women in authority until proven otherwise. "Put Jerry on," I said, cutting off any pretense. The line switched, and my brother's sheepish, terrified voice replaced it. I listened closely, analyzing every pause, every inflection. Vinny had the upper hand on a financial level, but legally, I held the trump card. The house's title was frozen. The transaction couldn't proceed. If Vinny wanted my house, he'd have to deal with federal oversight because this wasn't just a civil matter, it was fraud. I let the silence hang for a moment. The calm before the storm. Before I spoke again. "Vinny, this property isn't yours. The sale is frozen. My lawyer filed a lis pendens this afternoon. You aren't getting the title. You aren't getting the house. Any attempt to force this transaction constitutes RICO predicate acts. I have a lawyer drafting an affidavit for the FBI as we speak. You don't want federal scrutiny over a measly $80,000, do you?" There was a pause on the other end, and I could practically hear Vinny's teeth grinding through the line. The silence spoke volumes. Men like him thrived in shadows, assuming compliance, exploiting fear. But they didn't know how to handle someone who understood the rules of engagement. They didn't know I had positioned myself legally, psychologically, and strategically to force their hand without escalating violence. "What do you want?" he finally rasped. "Cautious now. Dangerous." I replied succinctly. "You walk away from the house, sign a release of the contract immediately, and in exchange, I don't send the file to the FBI." My tone was flat, deliberate. There was no room for negotiation on terms that compromised my property. The leverage was total: the house, the law, and my resolve. "And the money Jerry owes me?" Vinny asked. "That's between you and Jerry," I said firmly, my eyes locking on my brother, who flinched under the weight of reality. "But you are not getting my house. You are not leveraging my life against his mistakes." I could hear the subtle tension, the faint shift in Vinny's breathing. He understood, now, that I was neither bluffing nor panicking. He didn't have the leverage he thought he did. I hung up, placing the phone carefully back on the counter. The power dynamic in the room was palpable. Jeremiah's face was a mixture of relief and terror. Brenda and Cameron were dumbstruck, realizing the risk they had created by selling my home into the hands of a predator. I turned to my parents, voice low, unwavering. "You thought you could liquidate my life to save him. You didn't just betray me. You handed my property to a criminal. And yet, the house remains mine. Do you understand every single piece of it? Safe, frozen, untouchable. That's leverage. That's control. and it will stay that way until you fix your own mistakes. Jeremiah's trembling subsided slightly, replaced by a dawning comprehension. The gravity of the situation was sinking in. I had protected both him and my property, but in a way that forced him and my parents to confront their recklessness. The threat of Vinny was real, but it was contained, neutralized not by emotion or fear, but by precision and legality. I had removed the house from the equation entirely, and that forced everyone to deal with the debt itself, directly. Brenda's voice was weak, almost pleading. Alice, we didn't know. We were just you were trying to fix a problem that was not yours to fix. I interrupted, keeping my voice calm but sharp. You treated me like collateral. My house is not collateral. My life is not collateral. You made your choices. You deal with them. Jeremiah, that includes you. Vinny isn't getting my property. Period. I could see the wheels turning in their heads. The realization that the house was legally untouchable, that any attempt to bypass the lis pendens would constitute felony fraud, settled over them like a heavy cloud. Cameron's chest, once puffed with authority, now slumped slightly. Brenda's carefully cultivated calm shattered into guilt and panic. And Jeremiah, he was pale but no longer frantic. Understanding that my intervention had created a safe space that protected him from the predator's immediate threat, I considered the next moves carefully. I wasn't about to call the FBI yet. Vinny had been forced to retreat without escalating, but the option remained. This gave me time to strategize, to allow my parents and brother to confront the reality of their actions. My leverage was total the house, the law, and the chilling certainty that I would follow through if provoked. I allowed a slow exhale, letting them feel the weight of that control, the inevitability of consequences. You three, I said, voice cutting through the tension, will now deal with the debt yourself. You will contact the creditor, resolve the issue, and leave me and my property out of it. I have already neutralized the immediate threat. Any attempt to circumvent the lis pendens, any move to access the house, will escalate this legally, federally, and financially. Do not test me. Cameron's attempt to speak was a weak, defeated mumble. Brenda's lips pressed together, eyes wide. Jeremiah swallowed audibly, finally quiet, realizing the severity of both his actions and the consequences of their enablers. In that moment, I saw the full picture of how recklessness, parental enabling, and predatory opportunism had converged, and how control, intelligence, and calm decisiveness could dismantle it. I picked up the phone again, this time checking every detail: escrow accounts, banking info, title registry, all frozen, all secured. My house was untouchable. The predator was contained, and my brother, while terrified, was now in a position where he had to face his debt directly rather than leveraging my life. The power had shifted, the threat neutralized, and I was fully in command. I took a step back, looking at them all, the fear, the guilt, the dawning comprehension of their miscalculation reflected in their faces. For the first time, I wasn't just protecting my property, I was protecting my family from themselves, while making it crystal clear that they had no authority over me. The dynamic had irrevocably changed. I had won not through anger, not through threats, but through strategic action, calm intelligence, and legal leverage. Every decision, every calculated step had preserved my life's work, my autonomy, and my brother's immediate safety, while holding the guilty parties accountable for their recklessness. And in that room, in that tense, charged silence, the reality sank in for all of us. The house was mine, the threat contained, and the rules had been rewritten. In the days and weeks after the confrontation, the fallout unfolded in ways I had anticipated but still felt surreal. Legally, Marcus was ruthless. The list pendants froze the title, preventing the sale from going through, and the notary who had notarized the forged deed faced criminal charges, eventually losing her license. Cameron and Brenda scrambled, realizing the gravity of their actions and the exposure of their financial recklessness. They had to settle paying my legal fees, compensating for the movers, son, and covering the replacement value of everything they had sought or lost. It wiped out the last of their savings, a harsh but necessary correction to their previous decisions. With the immediate legal chaos resolved, my focus shifted to the house. Walking through the bungalow after the movers had gone, I could see the damaged furniture gone, curtains missing, my personal touches stripped away. The place felt like a hollow shell. But I had faced worse during restorations, and this was just another project. I spent months repairing the physical damage. I bought a new sofa, hunted down a dining table at an estate sale, and refinished it, sanding each surface until it gleamed, painting the walls a soft sage green. I created a calm, restorative environment, consciously choosing colors that erased the memory of the beige chaos left behind. Every sanding, every brushstroke was therapy, a physical representation of reclaiming what was mine, beyond the physical restoration. I had to address boundaries with my family. I went no contact with my parents, firmly establishing that my autonomy, property, and life were non-negotiable. The betrayal had been too deep, the pattern too entrenched. Jeremiah, meanwhile, had to confront the consequences of his gambling firsthand. With no safety net provided by my home, he lost his buffer and had to face the harsh reality of debt. Though he kept his personal safety intact, I maintained communication only as necessary. But I made it clear that my house and my life were off limits as collateral for anyone else's mistakes. The personal growth from the ordeal was profound. I had transformed in the eyes of my parents and brother, and more importantly, in my own. The quiet, diligent daughter who had always sought to please and avoid conflict was gone. In her place stood someone who could assert authority, protect her rights, and confront wrongdoing head-on. The house had always been more than wood and brick. It was a symbol of my independence, my hard work, and my ability to restore order from chaos. By reclaiming it, restoring it, and establishing firm boundaries, I had restored myself as well. Even mundane moments became part of this symbolic restoration. One evening, 4 months after everything, I was in the garden pruning the rose bushes Mrs. Jones had worried about so much. The blooms were vibrant, healthy, and flourishing, a testament to resilience and care. Mrs. Jones leaned over the fence with a warm smile, handing me a Tupperware container of blackberry cobbler. It was a gesture of recognition, a quiet acknowledgement that I had fought for and regained what was mine. I realized then that some of the most meaningful validation comes from those who understand you, who notice your struggle and your success without judgment or expectation. I reflected on the past months, the legal battles, the confrontations, the sleepless nights, strategizing, and the physical restoration of the house. Each act was a layer of reclamation, a repair not just of property, but of autonomy, identity, and peace of mind. The weight that had pressed on my chest for 24 hours after discovering the sale had lifted. The house was secure, the family's misuse of my property addressed, and my boundaries firmly established. I had navigated crisis with precision, intelligence, and calm, demonstrating that preparedness and knowledge are as powerful as any physical tool in restoration work. The broader lesson became clear. True restoration isn't just about fixing what's broken, it's about protecting what's yours, setting boundaries, and learning to navigate toxic dynamics with clarity and resolve. My parents and brother had underestimated me, assuming compliance and fear. I had proven that autonomy, diligence, and strategy could reclaim even what seemed lost. The bungalow, fully restored, was now a living testament to that lesson. There were practical outcomes too. My parents, Forced to confront their own financial mismanagement, were left with depleted savings and a hard reckoning. Jeremiah had no more easy outs, no more collateral to exploit. Vinny was neutralized, and the risk of legal escalation remained a latent threat they could not ignore. The house, now fully restored, represented safety, security, and the undeniable results of foresight and tenacity. It was not just a building, it was proof that boundaries, knowledge, and calculated action matter more than fear or coercion. Sitting on the porch one evening, watching the wind move through the trees, I felt a sense of completion. The windows glowed with warm light, the curtains drawn, the roses blooming. It was quiet, peaceful. A stark contrast to the chaos of the previous months. I had stripped away the rot, not just from the walls, but from the dynamics that had threatened to collapse my life. I had regained control, repaired the damage, and established a new order. This was restoration in its truest sense. Self and life back to their rightful state, secure and untouchable. In the end, the house and my life were safe, restored, and stronger than before. I had faced betrayal, chaos, and threats, and came out with clarity, boundaries, and a renewed sense of control. It wasn't just about property, it was about reclaiming what's yours and standing firm. If you enjoyed seeing how this all unfolded, make sure to like and subscribe, because there are plenty more stories of unexpected twists, real-life drama, and triumphs waiting to be shared.